My aunt sent a meme in the family chat. Landscapers equals failure with tools. The chat blew up. I left quietly. That spring, her yard flooded, causing $15,000 in foundation damage. When she panicked and called, I simply sent her a screenshot. My family. We're a symphony of digital chaos, communicating primarily through group texts, the occasional meme, and the ever-present, subtly devastating passive-aggressive emoji. There are 47 souls in our family chat, and yes, that number is absurd. But when you factor in my mom's side, my dad's side, their spouses, significant others, and a few friends who've somehow clung on over the years, it swells quickly. The chat ranges from my 92-year-old grandmother, who accidentally sends voice messages of her pocket lint, to my cousin's new girlfriend, a mysterious figure none of us have actually met in person. It's utter pandemonium, but it's our pandemonium. My name is Jessica, and I'm 28 years old. For the past 6 years, I've been the proud owner of Green Horizon Designs, a landscaping business born from necessity and a newfound passion. Fresh out of college, my biology degree felt like a relic, job opportunities scarce. So, I grabbed my dad's old Craftsman mower from the garage and started cutting lawns. It turns out, I loved being outdoors more than sitting in a sterile lab. What began as a one-woman show has blossomed into a legitimate enterprise with 8 dedicated employees, 3 fully equipped trucks, and contracts with some of the most prestigious properties in our county. It's been a journey, one I've poured my heart and soul into. Then there's Aunt Carol. My mother, bless her diplomatic soul, refers to her as opinionated. The rest of us? We just call her insufferable. At 54, Carol is a pharmaceutical sales rep, drives a white BMW, a fact she somehow weaves into approximately 60% of conversations, and has an unsolicited opinion on everyone's life choices. She married rich, divorced richer, and now presides over a sprawling 4,000-square-foot domain in Maple Ridge Estates. This is the sort of neighborhood where the HOA has an uncanny ability to sniff out garbage cans visible for more than 2 hours on trash day. Carol has 2 children, Madison, a lawyer in Seattle who can do no wrong in her mother's eyes, and Brett, who is currently finding himself in Colorado. Everyone knows this translates to living in a van and embracing the local herb culture, but Carol tells people he's exploring entrepreneurial opportunities in emerging markets. The blatant double standard has always been glaringly obvious to everyone but Carol herself. Carol, you see, has never particularly liked me. Growing up, her comments were like constant, stinging nettles. My weight, my clothes, my grades, my friends, anything she could dissect and critique. My mom would always tell me to ignore her, that Carol was simply unhappy with her own life. But those words, especially when you're a sensitive kid, they burrow deep. I must have been around 13, maybe 15 years ago now, when I overheard her tell my grandmother that I'd never amount to much because I was too stubborn and not pretty enough to coast by. So yes, Carol and I have a long, painful history. The incident that broke the camel's back happened on a Tuesday evening in late February. I was actually riding a wave of professional triumph. We'd just landed a contract to redesign the grounds at a new medical complex, our biggest project to date. To celebrate, I'd taken my crew out for dinner. Driving home, exhausted but genuinely elated, my phone began to buzz with a frantic, insistent energy. I waited until I pulled into my driveway to check it. The family chat, predictably, had exploded. Scrolling up, I found the source of the detonation. Carol. She had posted a meme. It was one of those crudely assembled images with impact font, looking like it had been dredged from the internet's primordial soup of 2010. The picture showed a bewildered-looking man in dirty jeans, holding a shovel. The text blared, landscapers equals people who failed at everything else, but can still hold tools, barely. Below it, Carol had typed, LOL, so true though. Why do people act like yard work is a real career? Followed by a saccharine smiley face emoji. My stomach plummeted. I sat there in my car, engine off, staring at the glowing screen as the messages rolled in. My cousin Derek, harsh LOL. Aunt Linda, Carol, that's not very nice. Uncle Mike, hey now, landscapers work hard. But then Carol, predictably, doubled down. Oh, come on. I'm just saying what everyone thinks. It's not exactly brain surgery. Anyone can dig holes and plant flowers. It's just manual labor for people who couldn't hack it in the real world. My mom, bless her heart, finally intervened. Carol. Jessica owns a landscaping business. This is hurtful. Carol's response ignited a slow, furious burn in my veins. Oh, please, Diane. Jessica knows I'm not talking about her specifically. I'm talking about real landscapers. She'll probably move on to something more professional eventually anyway. She's smart enough when she applies herself. More family members chimed in. Some, bless them, attempted to defend me. Others tried valiantly to change the subject. A few, clearly bewildered, simply sent random gifts. My phone vibrated ceaselessly in my hand. I watched as Uncle Ron, of all people, sent a thumbs-up emoji to Carol's message. That somehow stung more than Carol's original attack. My younger brother, Tyler, sent me a private message. Dude, are you seeing this? What a bitch. I didn't respond to him. I didn't respond to anyone. I just sat there, reading through the messages, feeling that familiar childhood sensation of being small, insignificant, and worthless, a feeling Carol had always been so adept at provoking. Here I was, a successful business owner, employing people, paying taxes, contributing to my community, and she reduced it all to digging holes. The thing is, landscaping isn't merely about making things look pretty, though that's certainly part of the art. It's about an intricate understanding of drainage, soil composition, plant biology, climate zones, irrigation systems, hardscaping, environmental impact, and so much more. I hold certifications in landscape design, horticulture, erosion control, and environmental management. I've dedicated years to studying water management, soil conservation, and sustainable land practices. But to Carol, I just dug holes. A decision crystallized in that quiet, angry moment. I scrolled back up, found Carol's meme message, and took a screenshot. Then, without a dramatic exit message, no final statement, nothing, I simply left the family group chat. I just left. My mom called me within 5 minutes. Honey, don't let her get to you. You know how Carol is. I'm fine, Mom, I said, my voice deceptively calm. I just don't need that negativity in my life right now. She didn't mean it personally, Mom insisted. She absolutely meant it personally, I countered, my voice hardening. And you know what? I'm done making excuses for her behavior. I'm an adult with a business to run. I don't have time for this. My mom sighed, a sound of weary resignation. Just don't do anything rash, okay? I promised I wouldn't, and I meant it at the time. I wasn't plotting revenge. I wasn't concocting some elaborate scheme. I just wanted Carol out of my notifications and, more importantly, out of my head. Over the next few weeks, a steady trickle of messages came in from various family members, urging me to rejoin the chat. I politely declined. My dad called to tell me he was proud of me for setting boundaries, which, I admit, brought a small, unexpected tear to my eye. Tyler continued sending me screenshots of Carol saying ridiculous things, but I eventually asked him to stop. I truly was trying to move on. Then March arrived, and with it, the spring rains. We'd had a relatively dry winter, but March more than compensated. It rained for 18 relentless days with only brief, teasing breaks. These weren't gentle spring showers that coaxed the world into verdant beauty. These were heavy, punishing downpours that overwhelmed storm drains and turned streets into churning rivers. The local news was filled with footage of flooding, and several neighborhoods had to be evacuated. I was busier than ever. Many of my clients called about urgent drainage issues, water pooling in their yards, erosion problems, precisely the kind of complex situations that people like Carol don't understand. When it rains like this, you discover very quickly who actually knows what they're doing and who's just digging holes. One of my clients, Mrs. Peterson, had invested in a French drain system with us 2 years prior. Her neighbor, who hadn't, was now battling a flooded basement. Mrs. Peterson sent me a thank you basket, laden with fancy cheeses and crackers, along with a note saying her neighbor was kicking himself for cheating out on just landscaping work. I was at another client's house, inspecting some retaining wall work we'd completed the previous fall, when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something, a flicker of instinct, made me pick up. Jessica. The voice was shaky, almost unrecognizable. This is she. It's Carol. Aunt Carol. I need your help. I stood there in the steady rain, water dripping from my hood, and waited. My house is flooding. Well, not inside yet, but the yard. There's so much water, and it's all flowing toward the foundation. I called the landscaping company, but they said they can't come out for 3 weeks. And another one wanted $12,000 just to look at it. I heard you do this kind of work, and I know we haven't talked, but this is an emergency and your family. So, I thought. The desperation in her voice was palpable. Any satisfaction I might have felt, any fleeting thought of "I told you so," was instantly drowned by genuine, professional concern. Water against a foundation is no joke. It can cause structural damage that costs tens of thousands to repair. Carol, have you called a foundation specialist? I asked, my voice calm and steady. Yes, they came out this morning. They said if I don't redirect the water away from the house immediately, I'm looking at major foundation damage. They estimated anywhere from $12,000 to $18,000 in repairs if the water keeps saturating the soil around my foundation. The soil is already soaked through, and there's like water just pooling everywhere, and it keeps raining, and I don't know what to do. My professional instinct, honed over 6 years, cut through the personal sting. Water doesn't care about feelings or grudges. Water finds the path of least resistance and causes damage. That's physics, not personal. Okay, what's the situation? I asked, already shifting into assessment mode. Where's the water coming from? I don't know. Everywhere. The yard is it's a swamp, and it's all running downhill toward the house. The foundation guy said something about needing drainage and grading and... Jessica, I'm scared. This house is everything I have. One company said they couldn't come out for 3 weeks, and another gave me some ridiculous quote of $12,000 just for an emergency consultation, which felt like they were trying to take advantage of the situation. I closed my eyes briefly. 6 years in business had taught me many things, but above all, it taught me that I solve problems. I can come look at it, I heard myself say. Really? Oh, thank God. When can you come? Now? I'm with a client. Give me an hour. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm sorry about everything. I was wrong, and I know that now, and I'm just so grateful you're willing to help. I hung up and stared at my phone. My client, Mr. Harrison, had been standing nearby and clearly overheard my end of the conversation. Family? He asked, a knowing look on his face. Yeah, my aunt. She's got a drainage emergency. The aunt you don't talk to anymore? I'd mentioned the family chat incident to him a few weeks back during a consultation. He'd been appropriately outraged on my behalf. That's the one. He shook his head, a wry smile playing on his lips. You're a better person than me, Jessica. I'd let her drown. I laughed despite myself, a genuine, if slightly bitter sound. It's not about her, Mr. Harrison. It's about doing the right thing. Besides, it's what I'm good at, right? Digging holes. Mr. Harrison squeezed my shoulder. You're a professional. Go show her what that means. I finished up with him and headed to Maple Ridge Estates. The neighborhood looked worse than I'd expected. Water was running down every street, and several yards had visible standing water. The storm drains clearly weren't designed for this volume. I made a mental note about poor municipal planning. Carol's house was impressive, I had to admit. A gray stone facade, a perfectly manicured lawn, usually ornamental trees, a circular driveway with stamped concrete, and water. So much water. The yard sloped decisively toward the house, a massive design flaw I spotted immediately. Whoever had originally graded this property had done it backward. Water should always flow away from structures, not toward them. The existing landscaping was purely aesthetic, all ornamental plants and decorative rocks with no functional drainage whatsoever. Carol came running out before I'd even parked. She looked terrible. Her usually perfectly styled hair was a messy ponytail, her expensive clothes replaced by sweatpants and a ratty college hoodie. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. "Thank you for coming," she choked out. "Thank you so much." I grabbed my boots from the truck and walked the property with her. The situation was bad. Really bad. The gutters were overflowing because the downspouts were dumping directly onto the ground next to the foundation. The yard had no proper grading, no drainage system, no swales, nothing. It was a beautiful disaster waiting to happen. And now it was happening. "How long have you lived here?" I asked, making notes on my tablet. 12 years. I bought it right after the divorce. "And you've never had flooding issues before?" "No, never. I mean, there'd be some water in the yard after heavy rain, but nothing like this." I knelt near the foundation and dug a small hole with my soil probe. The ground was completely saturated, and I could see water actively seeping toward the basement wall. "Carol, I'm going to be straight with you. This is a serious problem. The water table is high from all the rain. Your yard has negative grading toward the house. You have no drainage system, and your downspouts are making everything worse. If this continues, you're going to have foundation failure, basement flooding, or both." That foundation specialist wasn't exaggerating about the 12 to 18,000 in potential damage. She put her hand over her mouth. "How much will it cost to fix?" "I need to do a full assessment and design a proper solution, but you're probably looking at somewhere between 8 and 15,000 for a comprehensive drainage system that includes regrading, French drains, catch basins, redirecting downspouts, and potentially a dry well or two." $15,000, she whispered. "That's the high end." But yes, water management is complex. It's not just digging holes, Carol. It's understanding hydrology, soil percolation rates, slope calculations, and drainage engineering. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She started crying again. "I don't have that kind of money just lying around. The divorce settlement is mostly tied up in the house and my retirement accounts." I stood up and wiped mud from my hands. This was the moment. This was where I could walk away, tell her to call one of those companies that quoted her 12 grand just to show up. Remind her that this was a job for professionals, not for failures with tools. The old Jessica, the 13-year-old who'd heard she'd never amount to much, wanted revenge. Wanted to watch Carol squirm. Wanted to send her that screenshot of the meme and say, "Good luck finding someone who barely knows how to hold tools." But I'd spent 6 years building a reputation on being reliable, professional, and genuinely good at what I did. My business wasn't built on being petty. It was built on solving problems. "I can help you," I said slowly, firmly. "But I need some things from you first." "Anything," she practically pleaded. "An apology. A real one. Not because your house is flooding, but because what you said was hurtful and wrong." Carol nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'm so sorry, Jessica. I was awful. I was jealous. Honestly, you took a risk and built something. And I've spent years being miserable in a job I hate. And instead of being proud of you, I tore you down. That meme was cruel, and the things I said were worse. I'm ashamed of myself. It wasn't the apology I'd imagined, but it felt genuine." "Okay. Second thing, I need you to post in the family chat. Tell them you were wrong about landscaping being for failures and recommend my business." "Done." "Absolutely." Third, my standard rates, no family discount. This is my business, and I don't work for free." "Of course." "Yes." I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app where I'd saved that infamous screenshot weeks ago. I showed it to her. "I saved this. I was going to send it to you today and tell you to figure it out yourself. But that's not who I am. I'm a professional who solves drainage problems, even for people who think what I do is just digging holes." Carol looked at the screenshot and then at me. Fresh tears welled in her eyes. "I'm the worst person in the world." "You're not," I said, a flicker of something softening inside me. "But you were really mean, and it hurt." I put my phone away. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to come back tomorrow with my crew and some equipment. We're going to do emergency grading to redirect water away from your foundation. That'll buy us time. Then I'm going to design a proper drainage system for this property, and we're going to install it, right? You're going to pay my invoice within 30 days, and you're going to stop telling people that manual labor isn't a real career. Deal?" "Deal." "Yes." "Thank you." Over the next week, my crew and I basically rebuilt Carol's yard from the ground up. We brought in a mini excavator and regraded the entire property so water flowed decisively away from the house toward the street. We installed 3 French drain systems with proper filter fabric and gravel. We added 4 catch basins in strategic locations. We redirected all her downspouts into underground drainage pipes that carried water safely to the street. We even built a small berm on the side of the property where water was entering from the neighbor's yard. It was a massive job. My guys worked 12-hour days in the constant rain, and I was out there with them, muddy and exhausted, making sure every detail was perfect. Mrs. Kravitz from across the street brought us coffee one morning and mentioned she was having similar issues, asking for a quote. Mr. Patterson 2 doors down asked for my card. Word, it seemed, was spreading. On the second day of work, something interesting happened. Carol's friend Denise stopped by, the kind of woman who wears designer athleisure to walk her miniature poodle and has opinions about everyone's landscaping choices. I'd seen her at family gatherings before, always attached to Carol's hip, laughing at her jokes no matter how cutting they were. Carol, what's all this construction noise? Denise called out from the sidewalk, wrinkling her nose at our muddy worksite. Are you finally redoing this yard? I told you years ago you needed better landscaping. Carol glanced at me nervously before answering. The house was flooding. Jessica's fixing the drainage. Jessica? Your niece Jessica. Denise's perfectly microbladed eyebrows shot up. The one who does lawn mowing? I felt my jaw tighten, but before I could say anything, Carol spoke up, her voice surprisingly firm. She owns a professional landscaping and drainage company. She's saving my foundation from collapsing. Actually, the other companies I called either couldn't help for weeks or wanted ridiculous money just to assess the damage. Denise looked skeptical. Well, I hope she knows what she's doing. Water damage is no joke, and you don't want some amateur making it worse. That was my breaking point. I stood up from where I'd been checking the slope gradient, covered in mud from head to toe, and walked over. Ma'am, I said, my voice cutting through the damp air, I have certifications in landscape design, horticulture, erosion control, and environmental management. I've been doing this professionally for 6 years, and my company has handled drainage projects for residential properties, commercial complexes, and municipal parks. I assure you, I know exactly what I'm doing. The look on Denise's face was priceless. She stammered something about not meaning to offend anyone and practically scurried back to her house with her poodle tucked under her arm. Carol came over to me after she left. I'm sorry about her. She's always been like that. Like you were, the words came out before I could stop them. Carol flinched but nodded. Yeah, exactly like I was. It's embarrassing to see it from the outside now. Is that how I sounded to everyone? Pretty much. She was quiet for a long moment, watching my crew position the excavator for the next section of trenching. How do you deal with people like that? People who assume you don't know what you're doing because of what you do for a living. I wiped sweat from my forehead, probably just smearing more mud around. I let my work speak for itself. In a week, your yard will have a functioning drainage system that'll protect your house for decades. Denise can think whatever she wants. But your foundation won't crack, your basement won't flood, and you'll sleep better during rainstorms. That's what matters. You're really good at this, aren't you? She asked, a hint of awe in her voice. I'd better be. I've got 8 employees counting on me to know my stuff. Carol, to her credit, helped us clean up at the end of each day, insisting on bringing out garbage bags for debris and offering to hose down tools. On day 3, she even asked Marcus, one of my best workers, about the perforated pipe system we were installing. So, the holes let water in, but how does it not just fill up with dirt? She asked, genuinely curious. Marcus, usually a man of few words, actually lit up, explaining the filter fabric we wrap around the pipes and how the gravel base creates a stable drainage channel. I watched Carol listen intently, asking thoughtful follow-up questions, and realized she was actually trying to understand rather than just making small talk. That evening, after the crew left, Carol asked if I had a few minutes to talk. I need to tell you something, she said, sitting on her front steps despite the dampness. When Madison got into law school, everyone celebrated. When Brett decided to find himself, I made excuses for him because at least he tried college first. But when you started your landscaping business, I told people you were just doing it temporarily until you found a real job. The honesty stung, but I appreciated it. I told my book club that you were basically a glorified gardener. I told my coworkers that it was sweet how you were trying to make something of yourself. I diminished everything you built because it didn't fit into my narrow definition of success. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I'm not asking you to forgive me right now. I just need you to know that I see how wrong I was. And I'm genuinely sorry. I sat down next to her, both of us exhausted and dirty. Do you know why I love what I do, Carol? Tell me. Because I get to solve puzzles. Every property is different. Different soil types, different elevations, different water flow patterns. I have to figure out how to work with nature instead of against it. And when I get it right, when I design a system that prevents flooding or erosion or water waste, I know I've done something that matters. I've protected someone's home, their investment, their peace of mind. That's beautiful, actually. It is. And it took me a long time to stop caring what people like you thought about it. I bumped her shoulder gently. But it hurt when it was family saying those things. I know. I'm sorry. We sat there in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set over her newly graded yard. Tomorrow, we'd finish the French drains and start on the catch basin installations. The day after that, we'd connect everything to the street drainage system. By the end of the week, her property would be transformed. Carol watched us work every day after that. She brought us lunch. She asked questions about what we were doing and why. She actually seemed interested in learning. On the third day, she even asked if I'd be willing to teach her about basic drainage principles so she could maintain the system. See those catch basins? I explained, pointing to the metal grates we'd installed. You need to clean the debris out of those every few months. Leaves, sticks, anything that might clog them. And in the fall, make sure your gutters are clean so your downspouts can flow properly. I had no idea any of this existed, she admitted. I just thought yards were yards. You plant grass and flowers, and that's it. Most people think that, I said, until they have a problem. That's why we're here. The final bill came to $14,800. Carol paid it the day I sent the invoice, and she left a 5-star review on our website that specifically mentioned how professional, knowledgeable, and hardworking we were. She also, as promised, posted in the family chat. I wasn't in the group anymore, but Tyler sent me a screenshot. Carol had written a long, thoughtful message explaining that she'd been completely wrong about landscaping, that it was a highly skilled profession requiring extensive knowledge, and that anyone dealing with property issues should contact Green Horizon Designs because they're the best in the business. She even included our website and phone number. My mom called me that evening. Carol posted about your company, I heard. Did you two work things out? We're working on it. She apologized. A real apology, not a non-apology. I'm glad. And honey, your dad and I are really proud of you. The way you handled this, staying professional even when she'd hurt you. That takes character. Thanks, Mom. Can I tell you something, though? Of course. I almost sent her just the screenshot and told her to deal with it herself. I wanted to. And what stopped you? The only thing that stopped me was knowing it would feel good for about 5 minutes, and then I'd regret it. But you didn't. That's what matters. After we hung up, I looked at that screenshot one more time. Landscapers equals people who failed at everything else, but can still hold tools. Barely. I thought about my 8 employees who depended on me for their livelihoods. About the dozens of clients whose properties we'd improved and whose problems we'd solved. About the certifications on my office wall and the skills I'd worked so hard to develop. About the fact that I just prevented $15,000 in foundation damage through knowledge and expertise that took years to acquire. Then, with a quiet click, I deleted the screenshot. I didn't need it anymore. 3 months later, Carol invited me to lunch. Just the two of us at a nice restaurant in town. It was awkward at first, but then we talked. Really talked. Maybe for the first time ever. She admitted she'd always felt threatened by me, that watching me succeed in something unconventional made her question her own conventional choices. She told me about her unhappy marriage, her strained relationship with Madison, her worry about Brett. She was human, vulnerable in a way I'd never seen before. I spent so much time judging everyone else to avoid looking at my own life, she said, her voice soft. I'm trying to do better. We all mess up, I replied, meaning it. The important thing is learning from it. She smiled, a genuine, warm smile. When did you get so wise? Probably around the same time I learned about soil percolation rates and grading calculations. We both laughed. Carol and I will never be best friends, but we're family and we're trying. She refers clients to me regularly now, and I've actually helped her understand more about her property and how to maintain it. She's taken a genuine interest in sustainable landscaping, and we've had some interesting conversations about native plants and water conservation. Last month, she even asked if she could rejoin the family chat. I'd rejoined a few weeks after the drainage project, mostly because my mom kept complaining she had to tell me everything twice. When Carol came back, her first message was simple. Hi everyone, I've missed you. I'm going to try to be better about thinking before I post. Uncle Ron, the same Uncle Ron who'd given her meme a thumbs up, replied, we all should. Running a business has taught me a lot about people. Everyone has problems they need help with, and everyone has their own struggles. Being good at what you do isn't about proving people wrong or getting revenge. It's about showing up, doing excellent work, and treating people with respect, even when they don't deserve it. Would it have felt good to send that screenshot and watch Carol panic? Absolutely. For about 5 minutes. But I wouldn't have felt good about myself, and I definitely wouldn't have earned $14,800 and gained 3 new clients from her neighborhood. More importantly, I wouldn't have learned that Carol was a whole person beyond the mean comments, and she wouldn't have learned that landscaping is about a hell of a lot more than digging holes. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's just being so good at what you do that people can't help but notice. And sometimes, if you're really lucky, the people who doubted you become your biggest advocates. My business is doing great. We just hired 2 more people and bought another truck. I'm working on getting certified in ecological restoration, and we're starting to do more commercial projects. Every day I get to work outside, solve problems, create beautiful, functional spaces, and employ good people. I don't think about that meme anymore. But sometimes, when I'm designing a complex drainage system or explaining water flow dynamics to a client, I remember being 13 and hearing that I'd never amount to much. And then I smile, because I'm doing exactly what I was meant to do. And I'm damn good at it. Anyone can dig holes, but it takes real knowledge, skill, and professionalism to dig the right holes in the right places for the right reasons. That's the difference between manual labor and a career. That's the difference between failure and success. And that's something Carol understands now too.